Sarah Mitchell occupied the familiar bench that had served as her residence for the last 6 months. Her attire was faded yet spotless. She ensured it stayed that way. At 42, existence had handed her outcomes she never anticipated. A spouse's passing, healthcare costs that devoured her funds, and a chain of unlucky incidents had placed her here on Maple Street, with all her possessions in 2 plastic bags from the store. Yet Sarah possessed something cash couldn't acquire. She had vision that still recognized individuals, not merely countenances, going past. She had a spirit that still experienced emotion even as society had overlooked her. It was a Tuesday, midday in the final part of September, the sort of day when the sunlight seems soft and the breeze carries the scent of impending shift. Sarah was observing the local kids at play when she spotted young Emma Rodriguez, perhaps 4 years in age, with deep curly locks and vivid blue footwear that glowed with each step. Emma resided in the red brick complex opposite the road. Sarah had noticed her mom, a youthful lady who always appeared to be hurrying off someplace, likely balancing employment and parenting like countless others. Emma would occasionally greet Sarah with a wave, and Sarah would reciprocate, a tiny bond in an isolated existence. That Tuesday began like every other, but near 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it all shifted. Sarah detected at first fumes, not the type from a grill or hearth. This was distinct, acrid, threatening. She glanced upward and observed thick smoke pouring from a second-story window of Emma's structure. Fire danced along the drapes, intensifying with every moment. Crowds began assembling, gesturing, yelling. Somebody shouted that they had dialed 911. But Sarah's gaze locked on something that chilled her to the core. Right there, in the pane of the blazing unit, stood Emma. Her tiny features mashed against the pane, liquid trails down her face. Her lips parted in a soundless cry that Sarah sensed deep within. The world crawled to a halt. Sarah overheard somebody mention the fire crew was 10 minutes out. 10 minutes. That young child lacked 10 minutes. Without pondering, without pausing, Sarah released her bags and dashed. Her tired shoes slammed the sidewalk as she dashed across the road. Folks hollered for her to halt, that it was far too risky, but their words were mere static. All Sarah registered was Emma. The entrance was already warm against her palm. Sarah tugged her coat over her fist and forced entry. Fumes packed the corridor, dense and suffocating. She crouched down, recalling a tip from long ago. Pure oxygen lingers close to the ground. She inched up the steps, every inhale scorching her chest. The entrance to Emma's place was slightly open, warmth pouring from it like a furnace. Sarah shoved inside, shouting Emma's name. The main room was consumed by fire, but she detected sobs from the rear sleeping area. Sarah draped her coat across her mouth and navigated through the haze. She discovered Emma curled in the nook, gripping a plush bunny, paralyzed by terror. Sarah lifted her swiftly, pressed her close to her torso, and murmured, "You're safe now, dear. Shut your eyes and cling to me." Escaping proved tougher than entering. The blaze had expanded, obstructing their initial route. Sarah's thoughts sped. There existed a rear staircase, seldom utilized, cluttered with boxes and aged furnishings. It represented their sole opportunity. She hauled Emma through the haze, sensing the blaze scorch her limbs, her shoulders. The plush bunny slipped from Emma's grasp, but retrieval was impossible. Every stride seemed endless. Sarah's chest begged for oxygen. Her sight grew hazy, But she persisted. 1 foot, then the next. 4. Emma, for this youngster who merited growing. Older, celebrating milestones, experiencing affection and happiness and every wonderful aspect life might provide. They exploded through the rear door just as wails echoed nearby. Sarah crumpled onto the lawn at the building's back. Emma remained in her embrace, both coughing fiercely, inhaling deeply, surviving. Emergency responders hurried forward. Somebody draped a cover over them. Emma's mom showed up frantic with joy, falling to the earth and drawing Emma close, weeping appreciations that Sarah scarcely registered. Sarah received care for fume exposure and slight scorches. The medical center wished to monitor her through the night, but she declined. She lacked coverage. No means to cover costs. She simply desired to depart. Silently, as she had existed for the prior 6 months. By the moment she came back to Maple Street the following dawn, her bench was encircled by media trucks. The tale had circulated and housed lady rescues. Toddler from Blaze. They sought discussions, craved her account. But Sarah evaded. She hadn't rescued Emma for acclaim. She acted because it was proper. 3 days went by. Sarah had relocated to another section of the city, attempting to dodge the spotlight. She was resting in a modest green space when a dark vehicle approached. A gentleman emerged, tall, around 50, with grey strands and a tire that signaled prosperity. He surveyed, examining expressions until his gaze settled on her. He approached gradually, courteously. Sarah Mitchell, she affirmed, cautious. I'm David Rodriguez. Emma is my grandchild. Sarah's air hitched. She recognized it now. The identical gaze Emma possessed. David took a seat next to her, his tone heavy with feeling. I've been looking for you these past 3 days. My child explained your actions. How you charged into that inferno while everyone else merely observed. How you preserved my grandchild's existence. Sarah gazed at her palms, marked from the scorches. Anyone would have acted similarly. But they didn't, David replied gently. You did. And I want you to understand that Emma inquires about you daily. She wishes to express thanks to the guardian who rescued her. David drew from his coat and retrieved a packet. I'm not here to offend you with funds. I'm here to provide an opportunity. I run a firm, Rodriguez Industries. We construct residences for those in need. I could benefit from somebody with your bravery, your compassion. There's a role overseeing our neighborhood involvement initiative. It includes pay, perks, and a place to live. Sarah gawked at him, speechless. I've discovered something in my 60 years, David went on. True riches aren't gauged in currency. They're gauged in integrity, in acting correctly when it demands everything from you. You possess that riches, Sarah. More than I did when I began with nothing except resolve. Liquid streamed down Sarah's face. I don't know how to respond. Respond that you'll visit Emma tomorrow. Respond that you'll grant yourself the new beginning you merit. Respond that you'll allow us to pass on the blessing you bestowed on our household. Sarah reflected on that instant in the blaze when every urge screamed to retreat, but her spirit urged her ahead. Perhaps this was existence's method of honoring not her, but the decency that persisted in the world. All right, she breathed. All right, David grinned, and Sarah noticed in his gaze the identical spark she'd observed in Emma's. Optimism, thankfulness, and the firm conviction that compassion counts. 6 months afterward, Sarah owned a dwelling, a career she cherished, and frequent meals With Emma's relatives. Emma referred to her as Aunt Sarah, and continued discussing the day. Her guardian preserved her existence. Sarah realized that occasionally you must traverse flames, actually or symbolically, to discover your path home. And occasionally the tiniest display of valor can alter not only one existence, but several. Because ultimately, we're all merely individuals striving to perform our finest. And when we select compassion, select courage, select to view one another as fellow humans deserving of rescue, that's when wonders occur. If this tale moved your soul, kindly like, share, and follow for additional tales of optimism and human connection. Drop a note below, sharing a moment somebody displayed you unanticipated generosity.